Three, two, one, go. Welcome to the Red Fleet. This is your juicy kernel called corn. And we have Ween back. Sally, say hi.
Hello, it's me again. It's Sally. I hope today I will bring you guys some knowledgeable things. And of course, welcome to the Can of Coin. Even though I have my own channel now, but Coin is
Welcome to
still
the Red
the star
Fleet.
for today's show.
This is your
Okay,
juicy
so I will
kernel.
begin. Um, okay, so hello everyone. Today I will talk about the two articles I have written and connect them to clarify one main issue in education. The first article I have wrote is "The Universe Should Learn from the Critic of the Gotha Program" by Karl Marx, which look at inequality and hierarchy inside university through Marx's critique of the Gotha program. The second is collective education in the era of globalization, which analyzes education under globalization, focusing on class consciousness and collective education. By bringing these two articles together, I want to show that the university is part of a wider system of capitalist education and that real change requires collective, not individual, solutions. When people talk about the crisis of universities and education today, the most common reaction is to point at easy targets. These are familiar figures, managers who spend more time in air-conditioned meeting rooms than in classroom, red-faced men whose bellies roll lecture each year, people who sign papers more than they read books, and who run intellectual life like a family business rather than a public space. But if we stop at criticizing the individuals, we fall into a trap. We turn the crisis of the university into a moral problem of bad people instead of seeing it as a structural problem. The real issue is not that pure old brat exist, but why they can exist at all. Why the university structure produce and protect them, and why intellectual labor, what should be the core of the university, it pushes to the lowest place in the power hierarchy. To answer this, I want to bring together two lines of critique from the same critical traditions, but which are often discussed separately today. The first line comes from Karl Marx and the critique of the Gotha program, a text that seems to be about principle of distribution, but in fact exposes the hidden logic of inequality behind the language of equality. The second line comes from the Marxist analysis of education under globalization. Education's at an ideological institution, producing form consciousness, reproducing the division of labor, and turning knowledge into a commodity. These two lines meet at one point. Education, and especially the university, is where societies produce the mental conditions that allow inequality to be justified and reproduces. So, in the critique of the Gotha program, Marx attacks a key illusion of reformism, the belief that equal rights can exist in unequal social conditions. He shows that equal rights often hide inequality at the starting point. They do not remove differences, they translate them into a legal and moral language that looks neutral. In other words, equality on the surface becomes the very mechanisms that allows inequality to work smoothly underneath. This is why the lesson of Gotha is so sharp, almost painful, when applied to today's university. Universities contently speak about fairness, transparency, merit based evaluation, and ability, yet they rely on a structure where power comes from positions, not labor, from title, not contribution, from plurality, not intellectual rectors. We can see this structure clearly in a familiar paradox. The people who actually produce knowledge, like lecturers who teach 4 to 6 courses each semester, who mark papers, give detailed feedbacks, and mentor students, they carry emotional labor. They keep the university alive and they are the wicked group in the university hierarchy. Meanwhile, the form of labor that have little direct relation to knowledge, long reports nobody read, strategic meetings, performance frameworks are treated as contributions and raised to universal standards. Here, a reversal of value takes place. Living concrete labor is devalued, while pure operatic and abstract forms are glorified. This is not just unfair, it is a system. The mechanism described above in Marxist terms is a mechanism that reproduces inequality through the form. So the university made inequality look legitimate by using polite and technical languages such as efficiency, performance evaluation, and measurable outcomes. At this point, we need Adorno to see more clearly the decline of education as a concept. If Marx gives us a critique of economic and power structure, Adorno gives us a critique of the cultural and ideology structure of modern education. In the German traditions, I think you will like it. The Bildung does not simply mean training or education in a narrow sense. It refers to the formations of the whole person, where individuals develop critical thinking and keep a collective distance from society. However, in late capitalism, Adorno argues that Bildung does not disappear. Instead, it's become half Bildung, or in English, it is half education. Half-Bildung describes a situation where people learn a lot, they gain degrees, skill, and certificates, but lose the ability to think independently. Educations then become a form of symbolic property, a kind of cultural capital for exchange, rather than a process of emancipation. The key point is that Hatpidum is not a lack of education, it is the education that has been fully absorbed into the market logic and bureaucratic system. When education is measured by indicators, when knowledge is turned into the output, and when learners are reduced to competencies, Bildung is empty of its content and become half education, perfectly adapted but weak in critique. This directly connects to Marx's critique of vocational training, or in German word it is Ausbildung, as a way to repair labor for capitalist machinery. In the chapter on the division of labor and machinery in Das Capital, Marx explained that breaking labor into simplified tasks creates a split between skilled and unskilled labor. This reduces the training cost, lower the values of labor power, and increases surplus value for capital. Most troubling is that um, the fact that when machines belong to capital, workers become dependent on them and fear being replaced. Child labor, family labor are born into a reserve army for the labor market. Marx even writes that to work with machines, workers must be trained from childhood to adapt their bodies and mind to regular movement of an automation. Here, education is not about liberations, but about adjusting bodies and mind to give with the rhythm of the machines. If we layer these three critiques together, Marx on division of labor and machinery, Adorno on the Haftbildung, and Marx on the Gotha and the forced equality, the modern university appear as a double institutions. It is a place that produces knowledge but also produces subjects who fit into the existing social order. It speaks about the fairness while at the same time legitimizing inequality through the language of fairness. In other words, the university is part of the social machines, but it is also the place where the rationality of the machine is reduced. And globalizations make this problem faster and wilder. One key idea from discussion of collective education is that globalization is often the politicized term from the expansion of capitalism. When we call it globalization, it sounds natural, but in reality, it's referred to the expansions of market, faster circulations of goods, capital, images, and also educational models. Education it globalizes at an ideological form. Words like employability, lifelong learning, productivity, and even the word vocationalizations become a shared language. What this shared language often hides is the shared relation of expectation. So in China, they represent an extreme case of this logic. Without romanticizing or demonizing it, we can look at the structure. When the 996 work culture become a norm, the education system, especially the exam-oriented and competitions education, functions as a device that prepare bodies and minds for future exhaustions. The 996 work cultures mean you work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and 6 days a week. And it's become something that's so normal in China and even in Vietnam right now. So students study at a very high intensity, not only for knowledge, but because they are placed in a chains, study to pass exams, pass exam to enter a good school, and enter the good school to make a good position, and get good position to endure long working hours. So education here is integrated into a machine logic. It is no longer a space for reflection, but a production line for endurance. So Vietnam reproduced the same logic in a different form through achievement culture and degree worship. Education is often raised as a moral value, but this makes it even easier to empty its of meaning. Knowledge is replaced by certificates, learning by exam strategies, and being educated becomes the same as having a degree. Teachers are overloaded in a system focused on paperwork, competition, and standardizations. Students lack time and space for critical thinking, and the entire system is justified by the story of competition, integrations, and keeping up with the world. Rich remarks this integration is simply education entering the global capitalist market, standardized it for exams, measure it for competition, and turning people into human resources. So, if the critics stop here, it's fall into a familiar trap. The stronger the structure appears, the weaker the sense of action becomes. Therefore, I want to move the key questions of the next part in a globalized context like this. What is flat consciousness, and what should education be, and how they are connected? So here, Rosa Luxemburg is an important theoretical anchor because she offers a model of transformation, worker role under oppressions and develop individual consciousness, but through strikes, that is, through a collective struggle, they reach class consciousness. The key point is this. Class consciousness is not a lesson taught from the above. It is an experience that must be lived. Rosa calls the spontaneity not in the sense of chaos or a lack of organizations, but at a process of collective awakening. In this process, separated individuals recognize their shared wounds and turn them into shared action. The shock of experience, such as in mass strikes, as Rosa described, awakened class feeling like an electric current passing through millions of people. Workers suddenly realize that the economic and social conditions they have endured for decades in the chains of capital can no longer be tolerated. So here, Karl Marx and Rosa Luxemburg have the same kind of analyzing. Marx analyzed everyday exploitation from the state of menace, the extension of the working days, the loss of regret time, and the surveys of life itself to struggle that limits working hours, improve condition, and change laws. Rosa stressed that this collective experience is the greatest political school of the working class. Education, therefore, cannot be understood as an individual process of accumulating knowledge. It must be understood as a social process of shared experience where an individual enter a collective and through that collective change how they see the world. From this point, collective education is not a moral slogan, it is a structural answer. If buzzword education under globalization reduced upon consciousness, where workers identify their life with market logic, the division of labor, and standardized skill, then the collective education practice identification through experience and practice. It does not simply say be conscious. It's create the conditions in which consciousness can form. It's link learning with living, theory with practice, and individual with the community, and the knowledge with the emancipation. This bring us back to the university, but as a deeper level. When we say the university should learn from the Goldberg program, the critic of the Goldberg program, we are not only talking about reducing administrative inflation or raising wages for the contract lecturer, even though these are urgent and concrete demands. We are saying something more fundamental, like there can be no emancipatory knowledge inside an obtrusive structure of knowledge production. If university equality is only formal equality, evaluation by metrics while working conditions, time, and power remain unequal, then every call for equality becomes a language of legitimation. For this reason, the idea of bottom-up university is not a distant utopia. It is a name of political task to bring the university back to those who keep it alive: teacher, researcher, caregivers, mentors, and those who perform emotional labor. Activity now treated as non-labor must become the subjects of decision making. If Marx argues that those who create value should benefit from it, then in the university, those who create knowledge must have the power to shape the condition of its production. A fair university cannot be built through reports of metrics, because metrics are precisely the language of half-bildung, a form of half-education that turns knowledge into number, thinking into targets, and people into instruments. I want to end with a claim that sounds simple but cut to the core of the argument. The university does not only reflect the society, it has reduced it. It's produced knowledge, but it also produced subjects. People trained either to adapt or to resist. If the university is fully integrated into the mechanical logic of capital, it will reduce individuals switch to that machines, no matter how many degrees they hold. If the university wants just knowledge, it must begin by making its own structure just like the critic of the Goethe programs remind us that there can be no interested in outcomes when interested remains at the starting point. And if collective education teaches us anything, it is this: emancipatory consciousness cannot be the product of isolated individuals. It is a collective experience. It is organization, practice, and shared life raised to share understanding. So I don't mean to destroy the university at all. I am. What I want is to give it back to those who've been rushed inside the machines that keep running, giving back time, condition, power, and the meaning of knowledge as a ways of life, not a way of collecting points. If knowledge is reduced to a commodity, if education becomes only job training for the market, if Bildung turned into half Bildung, then the university is no longer a university. It's become a factory that legitimizes inequality in the language of quality. And this exactly what Marx, I don't know, in his critique of half education, and Rosa Luxemburg in her theory of collective awakening on force us to confront. Okay, thank you for listening.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, as usual, you're racing us through this. Just you take no prisoners. Take your time. We got all the time. And okay, so I took some notes. Let me see. So I like how you, of course I like it. I can sign this, do a pamphlet, let's print it, let's share this everywhere as a call for true knowledge, true education, in
Yes.
the light of this, I don't know, call it the mystification of enlightenment. There's this there's this quote I should look up right now, but also I need a second screen, then I could switch scenes so we have her on the full screen when she keeps going like this. So I'm sorry, we're still working on all this. So your point of a structural analysis and a more structural critique, in contrast to a focus on individuals, is well taken. It's an excellent point. And can I say, you you really laid it out very well, and you
Yay!
have
Thank you.
this whole this whole notion of inequality that's being reproduced by systems of oppression and exploitation within academia or other, yeah, parts of education. Um, your whole thing with half knowledge, or how do we call it in German? Dangerous half knowledge. Gefährliches Halbwissen.
Hafdung.
Mhm. Uh,
Hafdung.
it's it's a good it's a good take, and yeah, that's essentially the mystification going on, where you just cherry pick certain aspects you can use, exploit, maybe use to manipulate people, whatever you want to manipulate for your profit, for your markets. So there's also this pipeline to ideology, media, politics. So this is all well connected. I just did some research recently on this whole thing with NATO and education in Europe, and
Mm.
how there's this profit and this the statist structure at work that tends to monetize uh, all kinds of essentially propaganda
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that just reaffirms the status quo and doesn't really provide much of a critical analysis for maybe peace and understanding whatever we hippies might want. You know, there's it's all very dangerous in my eyes, and leads to guys like Mark Rutte holding this totally insane speech where he warned us people in Europe about the next big war coming, like our grandparents fought them, and so this is all also very concerning, and I don't think we can take academia out of this critique, and
Mm-hmm.
we should like you did, call for alternatives and lay out a way to make it happen. This bottom up revolution or renaissance of sorts, where
Yes.
where knowledge and education is really back at the center, and the people, and they're just, I mean, we're just cats, right? We want to know. We want to find out. When you sit me at the table and you put all kinds of stuff at the edge of the table, I will all kick it down just to find out what's going to happen. You know, this kind of science in a nutshell. That's how I was as a kid, just a little screaming terror. I didn't mean harm or anything. It's just playful way to, I don't know, understand the world together or something. So, yeah, I think this is all very inspiring. And
Thank you.
I don't have anything else, actually.
Okay. Okay. So maybe the next topic that that I will bring to the Kings of Coin or the Red Fleet is I'm currently doing a research on the problem of AI, and I developed it from the machinery and industry chapter in the capital from Karl Marx, and also I'm trying to get all the ideas of technology from Heidegger together. So maybe next time I could present something about this. I mean, it is just my draft for my research, but I would love to share with everyone if they interest. I want to talk about the machinery industry, how Marx talk about the machine, and then come to the AI as some things that unavoidable.
Oh yeah,
How do you feel?
that sounds like fun. There I can drop my weird ideas regarding AI and language learning models as our representative in the new global civic councils. We could totally automate. Why don't we need representatives? We have the technique. I don't know. Get behind this. Let's hijack this shit.
Yes. These
Yeah.
also are hot issues. I believe that everyone would love to hear this.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah, so maybe you wanna join some more juicy bits from your time in education and whatnot behind the paywalls in a Zoom talk in the second part in, I don't know, 4 minutes or so.
Yeah, I want to join the Zooms, and then I also want to you have the second banner, right, with Chris?
Yeah, we will do a second part in Zoom in a few
Okay.
minutes after a
I
little
want
break. And then I will send the link to Chris and post it on the Patreon to whoever is watching and who wants to join us in the Zoom. Maybe do, maybe don't. Stay where you are. Keep listening. We got some more coming up.
Okay,
Uh,
yes, I'll join the Zoom with you.
all right.
All
See you
right, then
later, people.
see ya. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.